Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Real Money Coach Show here, coming to you live on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and also coming to you live on YouTube as well. And so I'm so glad that you're tuning in with us tonight. Listen, you guys, I'm in the Central Time Zone, and this time thing has been getting me all confused, but I'm here. I'm on time tonight, and I'm glad that you're with me. I got a couple great things to kind of talk about. Number one, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the Power Networking Experience and Expo. We're only 16 days away from that conference that will take place at the Queen City, in the Queen City, at the Convention Center. Host hotel will be the Westin in Uptown. All the events happening from Wednesday through Saturday will take place at the convention. And let me tell you a little bit of what's happening on Wednesday. It's going to be a good, wonderful evening. Ruth Bell, thank you. And thank you for reminding me, Ruth Bell, to let everybody know, put it in the chat where you're watching from, what location, what city. We are glad that you are here. And so we're going to have a wonderful time on that Wednesday. The conference opens at 3 o'clock, but out at Top Golf University area, we're going to have Our Legacies Foundation. Those of you who are watching last night last week rather, saw a little bit of Kim Davy-Smith, who's the founder and president of the Our Legacies Foundation. We're going to be honoring at the Top Golf event. We're going to be honoring the late Dr. Joe Dudley. Ursula Dudley will be there to receive an award in honor of her dad. She also will be at the Power Networking Experience on Friday, where he will be honored as well. And so, but it's going to be a great time to network. And thank you, Dr. Benita Harris, for being here as well. And Alice Martin, thank you for being here. Those are my girls right there. They tune in each and every week. I'm sorry to disappoint y'all tonight, but Michelle will not be with us. She's on vacation. Did not get back in time. And so you guys, I'm flying solo, but the good news is I have a wonderful, wonderful guest, and we're going to have a great conversation, great time tonight we're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about legacy. We're going to talk about all that. And so as I was mentioning about the conference, the Power Network Conference, so that's the Top Golf event actually takes place on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Again, it's the Top Golf, the university location, and it's a fundraiser where the funds will go to Our Legacies Foundation, whose purpose is to help us preserve our legacies digitally, pictures, movies, all those things. And then also it will be going to the Dr. Joe Dudley Scholarship Fund. And in addition to that, we'll also have Dr. George Frazier there. And so some of the proceeds will be going to his legacy project, which is the Black Hall of Fame and Black Business Hall of Fame and Museum, which undoubtedly, if you got a Black Business Hall of Fame and Museum, you will also have some things about Dr. Joe Dudley there, as well as some other local folks that are going to be honored, including Mayor Gant and from Charlotte, the first Black mayor of Charlotte, as well as an architect and all those type of things. So it's going to be a great time. Workshops on Thursday, workshops on Friday. And how we do the workshops, and then my thing I'll be doing is going to be on Saturday. How it works is we have what we call our Power Talks. Power Talks are similar to what you have TED Talks. So it's a 12-minute talk that we give up, and we just tell whatever we're going to talk about for that 12 minutes. And then the 4 people who get up and give their Power Talks will then have a workshop that will be an hour or so later. And so you'll get a chance to hear the 4 speakers And then you'll be able to decide which of their workshops you want to go to. And so we want to say hi to a couple other people that are watching here. We got Janice Burt, Janice Leak, the Rainmaker is watching from Maryland. We got Coach Jesse Cole, who says that he will be at the Power Networking Conference. And so it's going to be a great time. You can still get tickets at a discounted rate, 32% off. If you want, you can go to the powernetworkingconference.com. But if you go to my website, if you go to the website, therealmoneycoach.com, go to that website and you will see a link to the conference. You'll see a link where you can get your ticket to the Top Golf reception event. And if you use that link on my website, it will save you 32% off of the price. Or you can use discount code TRMC, all caps TRMC 2024. And so it's going to be a great conference. Looking forward to that. Couple other things. I'm really kind of proud that I have been chosen to host our national convention in Vegas. So First Financial Security, I will be hosting, be one of the hosts there for our conference in Vegas. And I'll tell you guys, I don't talk a lot about what I do or the opportunity that it is for other people, but it most certainly is a great opportunity. It's been a real blessing for me and my family. And so if you're looking to add a stream of income, if you're looking maybe for a career change, or maybe you're looking for that second career because you're retired, just contact with me. Just get in contact with me. You can do it through the website or email or what have you. And let's just have a conversation. And one of the things that I've been talking about on the radio this week and last week was that June is National Annuity Awareness Month. And a lot of people have misconceptions about annuities, and some of that misconception comes from miseducation. And so if you want some information, doesn't cost you anything, schedule an appointment with me and we certainly talk about it. And then, of course, sometimes, we have people who, and no matter what business you're in, no matter what endeavor you're in, there is always going to be a bad apple in the bunch, right? So there's bad apples in the bunch sometimes. And sometimes we just write something off just because we run into one bad apple. I remember someone told me that, you'll always find someone who has a negative experience or has something negative to say. They said, if you Google Jesus himself, you'll find negativity. And we know that there was no sin and no shortcomings in him. So with all that being said, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to roll to a couple commercials. I think if we have those queued up, we're going to roll there. And then I'm going to come back and have a wonderful guest. Dr. Shelia Gothard will be with us. I think you will enjoy this conversation that we're going to have. It's going to be very rich, very powerful. And I think that you'll walk away from this evening very encouraged and inspired by someone that I've known for a long time. We won't put a number of years on it because we ain't trying to age nobody here today, but we've known each other for quite a long time. And so looking forward to that. And now, Ted, we good for the commercials? We ready to roll? I'm not sure. I don't see them pinned it up there. All right, here we go.
Take control of your finances today with The Real Money Coach. Our free financial wellness checkup offers personalized insights and strategies to secure your financial future. Don't miss out on the clarity and confidence you deserve. Visit www.therealmoneycoach.com now. That's www.therealmoneycoach.com right now to start your journey towards financial freedom. Your future self will thank you.
Do you have passion for your business but feel like your finances are falling short? Running a business takes more than a great idea. It takes a solid financial plan. Mitchell Consulting can help you turn your passion into profit with their financial advisory services. Get the financial guidance your business needs. Contact Mitchell Consulting to learn more about their passion to profit capabilities.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Listen, I'm excited. And for those of you who may be tuning into this through the podcasting platforms, which includes Spotify, Apple, all those platforms, I just wanted to mention how you can get in touch with the Real Money Coach. And that is simply by going to the website, therealmoneycoach.com. And you will see a couple things there. You will see opportunity, of course, about the Power Networking Conference I just spoke about. You'll see an opportunity to schedule a free appointment with me, as well as get your tax bill that you can expect in retirement, which is very important. So with that, let me do this. I want to introduce my guest this evening. And as I mentioned to you, I've known her for a long time. So I actually met her at Western Michigan University. My wife and I, Michelle, we all went to school together at Western Michigan University. Go Broncos. And Shelia was there. She was one of the officers in the financial aid office when we were there. And so y'all know, if y'all been to school, y'all know where financial aid is. You better know where some financial aid. And so Sheila's been there. She's been a real blessing to many people that went to Western. And so very, very proud to know her. She now lives in Greensboro, North Carolina. She's now Dr. Shelia Gothard, and she's had a wide range of experience in higher ed. And, one of the things I remember about Shelia so well is just her commitment to ministry and her faith and all that good stuff. So without any further ado, we're going to give her a chance to kind of come on and fill in all the wonderful things that she's done over the years. So Real Money Coach family, let's welcome Dr. Shelia Gothard to the stage. Hey.
Hello.
Hey, one of the things I want to throw in there for my daughter's sake and for others, that you are a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I don't want to leave that out.
That's right. They taught you well. Absolutely. About 40 years.
Wow.
Financial, active. Yeah.
All of that. That is wonderful. So Shelia, I learned some things in the last couple of days that we've been communicating, and that one of those things is that you grew up in Ben Harbor, Michigan.
Yes.
And I was just thinking, Michelle, of course, is from Ben Harbor. Her husband is from Ben Harbor. Lindsay Bell, who was on the show not too long ago, is from Ben Harbor. Right, we got all this Ben Harbor connection going on. So tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Ben Harbor.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on the show. Usually I'm on the other side. I'm in the comments, but thank you for having me. I don't take this lightly, but growing up in Benton Harbor was absolutely amazing. I didn't know what I didn't know while I was in Benton Harbor. I live, well, you don't know. See, we need Michelle here because I can tell you. And she would know streets. So I went to elementary school. I believe that I was in her brother's class in some of my classes in elementary.
No, would that be Vaughn?
Vaughn.
Okay.
Yeah. And I knew Vaughn before I knew her.
Okay,
so
got it.
We got it together. Actually, that's where you spoke about my commitment to ministry, and that's where that began. In Benton Harbor. You remember, I don't know if they do this anymore, but when you buy a church, you walk from the old church to the new church.
Yeah.
Okay, so they may not do that. That's one of my earliest memories of being the hands and feet of Jesus, if you will.
Okay.
I asked my father, who was at the time on the deacon board. I don't know exact because I was young at that time, but he had a lot to do with the transition and the acquirement of the other church, St. Mark, by the way, if anybody is here from Benton Harbor. But my earliest memory is saying, I want to march. I want to march with the church to to the big church. So if Michelle is watching, she would know Territorial Road is where, and I don't know why I remember the
Yeah,
address.
I remember
405,
Territorial Road.
405
Okay.
Territorial Road, Storefront Church. And then we moved over to Pavone, St. Mark. So
Okay.
that was my earliest memory. And then, of course, school, learning a lot of culture, friends, all my social memories began there. I started, and I talk about this in my book, how I was early in ministry, where, I was a Sunday school teacher and I was like in fourth grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, who was the pastor at St. Mark?
At the time, you think you go catch me slipping, but I remember all this. At that time, it was Pastor Gray.
Okay.
Gray was his, and then it later became Pastor Green. You may know him, Pastor Green.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and kind of, I didn't grow up in church, but once we moved to Kalamazoo. When I went to
Uh-huh.
Kalamazoo, I met my wife Elisa. We started going to Mount Zion,
Now,
and
that was the one in Kalamazoo.
that's the one in
Um,
Kalamazoo. Yeah, that's
okay.
the Mount Zion in Kalamazoo where Pastor Moore is there
Yes,
now. But back then, it was actually Gilliard.
that's
Gilliard
right.
was there when we were in school, and that's when I really started going to church on a regular basis. And
Good.
I had family members. These girls will just pull you on in. I'm telling you, she's like, when we going to church, I was like, yeah, I'm going to church. And so, but what a blessing! What a
Yeah.
blessing that was. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of fond memories of Chain Lake and some of those things that we used to do back in the day in church, where the churches would come together in the fall and in the spring, and they'd have the classes for the kids and all that stuff.
That's right. Right. I think that's where we met. Because
Probably.
I did a lot with Chain Lake under the leadership of Pastor Addis Moore.
Yeah.
I've always loved working with the 11th and 12th graders and then on to higher ed. And I remember just doing quite a few things
Yeah.
with them. And I remember also giving the latitude to be able to transform. That's my first involvement of transformational leadership, if you will, transform these minds in ministry. So that they would be able to understand. Now, again, I was teaching, but I was really teaching life skills and applying biblical principles, if you
Yep.
will, to them, to give them a hunger for other things that they could do in church. Pretty much what I'm doing now, but Chain Lake is where I actually started.
I have just so many wonderful members of Chain Lake. My pastor, Pastor A.P. Williams, Pope Williams, Clifton Rhodes.
Yes, he was out
Yeah,
of Grand Rapids, right?
yep, he was out of Grand Rapids, and then
Yeah.
Addis Moore. Pastor Moore was really a blessing, because when I accepted call to plant, he was one of the people that mentored me.
That
And
doesn't surprise me at all.
I had that relationship with him. And I remember I came over to Kalamazoo and sat down with him for hours and talked through it. And so just a wonderful, wonderful family and wonderful experience there. And so then you had this career in higher education.
Right.
And so how did that all come about?
Well, I just really truly believe that God led. Somebody was praying. Somebody was praying. I believe it was my father, because when he passed away, he was known as the praying deacon. I don't know if you remember him, but I believe that his prayers helped guide my footsteps. But I actually happened to be walking on campus with one of my sorority sisters, Western campus.
Okay.
And I remember exactly what she was doing. I was just hanging out. I had just graduated, and I had graduated in 3.5 years. So I had just done a long stint, and I just wanted to just hang out with my friends. So we went over to the administration building to pick up her ball ad. You remember that? where we had
Yes.
we would have the balls, and somebody over there would not old, but she was picking up money for the ball. And I said, I'll go with you. Went over there, and one of the administrators at the time, very impressed with whatever I was saying, and he asked me if I had a resume. I said, sure. I had no resume at all. I wasn't. I wasn't even planning on going. I had just graduated. So anyway, went, got that taken care of, came back the next day, interviewed. And you may have heard this story before. I interviewed for financial aid, for a position in financial aid. But at the time, the process was simply that they have to offer it to internal candidates first. Well, I didn't want to wait. I went ahead and took another position. Listen to this. During the time on the other position, I offered to answer the phones for the receptionist who was going to be stepping away for about 15 minutes. During that time, I answered a call from the director of financial aid. Still remember his name, John Kundle. And he was calling for somebody else, really. Well, obviously, he was calling for somebody else. And I recognized the name, and I said, oh, hello. I interviewed with you about a month and a half ago. We all know how long it takes to interview. But he said, is this Sheila? And at the time, I was Sheila Manuel. And he said, you know what? Since you're internal now, you can actually apply for the position that that we interviewed you for. Okay. So I think I had like 20 minutes, and I went ahead and did it. And then after I applied, I got it. And I was in that position. Well, 3 different positions in that office for 20 years.
Well, and see that just goes to show what God has for you. God has for you, regardless of the rules, regardless of what it might seem like. God can open doors that no man can shut. And so that's a wonderful story. And speaking of Western and even Mount Zion, I often talk about Danny Sledge.
Oh,
and yeah. Danny Sledge is the reason I ended up at Western.
Oh, wow.
Danny Sledge recruited me to Western. He recruited me, and I was being recruited to play football at a number of schools. Western wasn't one of them. He recruited me like I was coming there to be an athlete. I mean, he called my house. He talked to my mama. I mean, Danny, Mr. Sledge, Brother Sledge, he really was the reason responsible for bringing me to Western. And I still have great relationships with different, people that we met there, and Lowell Rinker is still he was my assigned mentor when I got to campus, because I was a county major. I came in on the higher ed scholarship, and so they always assign. And so it was a wonderful experience. And obviously, I met my wife of 32 years there. So, it was the right spot for me, right?
That was the right spot. And you mentioned Danny Sledge. He has been responsible for a lot of groundbreaking things for many people that we would never know about. And when you said his name, it reminded me of my first it was a community college. Somehow he had a program, and he invited me to come down and speak at Lake Michigan College. Wow. And that was my first opportunity to speak outside of my job and do training. And I have fond memories. I still talk to him. I still communicate. Really? When we had homecoming this past year, that just passed, we had wonderful choirs. I don't know if you remember the North Carolina A&T Gospel Choir is amazing. So I would clip videos and send it to him. So I was still talking to him less than a few months ago. Well, it was this past
when you talk to him again, please give him my regards.
I will. Please
do that. So now you kind of brought us full circle. You're talking about speaking and those type of things. And now let's talk about this. I think this would be fun to talk about too. Okay. Let's talk about moving from Michigan to North Carolina. right? And I know my story is this. I woke up one morning and Lisa said, let's move. And I'm like, okay, we living in Jackson, right?
Uh-huh.
Because she's from Jackson. So I'm
Mhm.
thinking, okay, well, we're going to move to Ann Arbor or Lansing, or maybe we move to, the Metro, Detroit Metro.
Mhm.
And she says,
Mhm.
let's move to Raleigh, North Carolina. And I was like, Raleigh? I don't know anything about Raleigh. Let's look at Charlotte. So we looked at Charlotte.
Uh-huh.
18 months later, we
Uh-huh.
packed up and we moved to Charlotte, not
Mhm.
knowing anyone. We knew one person. And it was just, we kind of really hung on to this year. Genesis 12, 1 and 3. Get thee out of that country
Mm.
and that I will show you. That was like embedded in our spirit as we were doing this. And I also want to do this. I want to thank you too, because one of the things that you did when you were at Mount Zion is you kind of looked after our son a little bit and kind of
Which
made
Mount Zion?
the Mount Zion in Greensboro.
Okay, because I attended too.
Right. So
Okay.
he was a student at A&T.
Yes.
We told him to look you up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a wonderful thing to know someone that when your child is away, you can say, here's a good person, connect with them, introduce yourself. And Lisa was just talking about that the other day, that we're forever grateful for the warmth that you may not even realize you did, but it meant a lot to us.
Thank you. It was absolutely my pleasure. I think I have some pictures of him. I usually anybody that parents connect me with their children, they end up at Mount Zion. And
Yes.
I do have some pictures. He brought friends to church too, and I have some wonderful pictures. I'll have to send them to you. But he was a pleasure
Yep.
to mentor.
And and just give a shout out to him. He graduated from A&T, he got 2 masters from Howard. And now we will go and have dedication for his son this
Oh,
weekend.
oh,
Tony the third, Trey.
oh, wow! Now, what
Yeah.
city?
Huh?
What city is he in?
Cincinnati.
Okay, okay,
Yep. Procter and Gamble. So,
okay, excellent.
yeah. So I said all that to say
Mhm.
thank you for that, but just kind of talk to, because we made that migration to North Carolina as well. Kind of want to know what's your story in terms of coming down.
Oh, okay. A lot of people,
Whatever you want to share.
whatever I want to share. Well, this is interesting because it started off. It gets better, but it starts off as a divorce. I got a divorce while I was there. Went through some really tough and difficult times. I had to make some very, 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 very hard decisions all over the place. All these
Mm,
decisions needed to be made. And we speak about legacy. And for me, legacy was my children. Right?
absolutely.
Even though I was going through a lot, uh, abuse, financial abuse, mental abuse, and still trying to hold the mantle in leadership, my job, and make sure my kids had what they needed. It was tough. And also remember too, both my parents were there, they were aging. So these decisions just had to be made and had to be made right. But I'm thankful that I did not have to make those decisions on my own. I There was a series of things that happened. The first one is
Mhm.
kind of funny. I found myself with a huge broom in the middle of a snowstorm in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It had not rained. It had snowed. I want to say like 4 feet of snow on
Mhm.
top of my car. Now, mind you, at this point, I've transitioned to a single mom. I'm kind of handling things, a home and everything. And this car is like I'm trying to get the snow off, and I'm like, oh, I said, standing there freezing. It was below zero, and I said to myself, I said, self, you don't have to live like this.
Mm.
It was at that moment that I decided, okay, I am going to see what I can do about putting things in motion to relocate. And one of the first things I needed to do is to make sure financially that I would be able to do it, and that I would be able to not only be able to do it for the short term, but for the long term as well. One of the most one of the decisions was that making sure I had, at that point, I had spent I was like 19 years at
Mhm.
Western Michigan University. And then understanding, speaking with people such as yourself, financial advisors. I tell everybody, get you a financial advisor. If it's just a friend or something. Otherwise, I would not have
Coach. Get a
known.
coach. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so I had to stay there a little longer to make sure I got my 20 years in.
Sure.
At that time, the state of Michigan had pensions, and I had somehow signed up on the right pension, not unknowingly. Again, see how God worked. In fact,
Yes.
it was Charles Warfield. You remember Charles
Mm,
Warfield?
yeah, absolutely.
It was Charles Warfield that took my young self, and he told me, um, he said, I need you to go down to HR. He wrote down on a napkin what I need to do for retirement. Now, you know, I wasn't thinking about no retirement. Right?
At 22, 23 years old, we not
Right.
thinking
I'm trying to get these student loans paid. I'm trying to get me a new car. I wasn't even, he said, go down there and tell him this is what you want. And because I respected him so much, he was a friend of the family as well. I did just that. Well, as a
Mm,
result, 20 years later, well, actually, even more. Today, I am set up financially so that I'm receiving a pension for the rest of my life
yep,
from Western Michigan University so that I could have a safety net for my business. Okay.
absolutely.
So, in that move, I decided I had been having some, I don't want to say problems, but you know how God makes you uncomfortable in a
Mm,
state.
yeah.
Now, I had been comfortable for 19 years. I was helping people all over the
Now
place.
I
I,
feel a little unsettled.
I,
Right.
I was feeling unsettled. Every move was just not right. In fact, I remember one of my friends who said, Sheila, my son is going to be coming to Western, and I told him to look you up because you're the financial aid lady. That just did not sit right with me. And it's okay, but for me, I'm like, I don't want to be the financial aid lady. And wait a minute, why am I helping the baby I remember being born? So it was like a whole generation of kids. Remember,
Right.
because they would have been 18. And I'm like, that wasn't sitting right. It was just so many things. And then,
That's all right. Where the baby at? Right, let that baby come on this camera.
come here, Christian.
Listen, if my grands was here, they would come right on up in here and get on camera. How you doing?
Good.
And,
Good.
and he's already had, uh, he's been coached already about what I'm doing and what he's supposed to be doing. And he's got a plan. And, you know, I've given him a strategy. Actually, I gave him a plan, but he came up with his own plan. And he said, I'm going to set a timer on his
That's good.
iPad because he was going to do something for 20 minutes. And I don't know how we got off this plan. See, you messing up my brand.
Well, we done went past this 20-minute timer. See, it's like y'all didn't keep it to 20 minutes.
Well, he had something else
right.
he was supposed to be doing, and I see that he has not done that. Okay, say goodbye.
It's the weird camera.
Yes, that, you know, okay. Why did I know it? But at least he has clothes on. We ain't gonna get because he's supposed to be in the bathtub, which all this is right around me, and I didn't want to close myself off.
Right.
Okay, so I wanted to work for HBCU. I
So
knew.
tell me where that came from, because see, I grew up in Muskegon,
Okay.
Michigan, and I knew about a few HBCUs, right? I knew about Morehouse, I knew about Howard, we knew about Spelman, we knew about what I would say the big brands, right?
Mhm.
And the reason I knew about Morehouse is because I just read a lot about Martin Luther King, and
Uh-huh.
so we knew of those brands, but I didn't know of AT&T, A&T rather, and Jesse
Nope.
Jackson and the Greensboro Ford. We didn't learn any of that stuff.
Well,
So we
you
didn't
knew
know
a
that.
whole lot more than I did. You knew a whole lot more than I did, because I didn't know anything about HBCUs, and that came again from the being uncomfortable where I was in my career, and what happened was, see, God will set up things and people as your footstools to other things. And what was happening was I had a passion to work with my people at a PWI. Okay. And I knew what their needs were. I knew
Mhm.
what they understood and what they didn't understand. I knew to have the compassion and the patience with grandparents who was mortgaging their homes for
Senior
education
citizen.
purposes. So it was my desire to make sure that they knew they was making the right decisions on loans and getting grants and financial, all of that. But what was happening internally was that my supervisors were getting on me, and they were saying, you're spending way too much time with students, way too much.
Mm. Well, you know what? Because I know Michelle, my wife. I mean, I knew people. They camp out at financial aid in Miss Gothard's office. That they
They did.
camp out there because they knew who to go see, who would look out for them. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, and I did, and that was my heart, that was my passion, and I wouldn't let them leave until I knew they understood. I would handhold them throughout the whole process, and so there were powers to be that, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to say why. Uh,
Productivity. We'll just call it
yeah,
productivity.
we'll just say productivity.
Wink, wink. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
um and it was becoming uncomfortable, and then it somehow uh, just connected to, hey, you know what, there's a whole campus full of my people that I have
Mm,
the skills and abilities to make. Now remember the snow and then the campus of people,
right.
then that's how I got to North Carolina, and I
Okay.
applied for a job at North Carolina A&T, the first job, the only job that I applied
Mm,
for, the only job, only. And what I didn't know until later was that they don't normally fly people out to the campus for an interview.
yeah.
I thought that's what they always do because that's what they did for me. They flew me out there. I sat with them. Again, I'm sitting there with 19 years of experience. I knew everything in and out, and I had a passion, and I'm glad that they were able to see that. So I
Mhm.
became the assistant director of financial aid at that time to help with the customer service, and really brought some real good technology things with me to help that they're still implementing now on campus today.
That's
So that's
good.
how I got there.
Well, and I just from I'll tell you from our experience, and we've had experience at Morehouse, we've had experience at Howard, that experience at A&T. A&T really does an excellent job. I felt like they did a really good job when T was there, because I mean things would just seem organized, and it's always good if you know someone, but we've
Yeah,
never really had some of the things that we've heard other people experience at other HBCUs.
right.
We've seen it at different places, but
Sure.
A&T was a great experience.
Okay, good. I'm
And
glad to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great experience. And someone was talking to me the other day about Jiho, right?
Yes,
Jiho, greatest homecoming on earth, right?
yes.
So it was a great experience. And so tell us a little bit now as we nearing the end of our time together. I want to know a little bit more about what you're doing in terms of leadership and some of the things that you're doing in terms of those things that you're using to kind of continue to help people.
Well, of course, glad to. So I've stepped up my game a little bit so that I can help a broader range of people. It's absolutely still my passion training because I enjoy training and I enjoy working with what I call here faith-based organizations, but we know these are churches. I love working with churches. And I had a great opportunity during the pandemic at working as now let me go back I was a trustee at the Mount Zion in Kalamazoo,
Mm-hmm.
them not even knowing. I never even mentioned that I was a trustee. I was approached to be a steward, they just call it differently, at the church I'm at now, Mount Zion.
Okay.
I know that's kind of quirky. So in that, I had the opportunity to have leadership with other ministries. So in that, here comes the pandemic, and churches are adjusting and pivoting. And we just had a great experience at our church. But what happened was, I was put on a committee to help with us easing back into the church. I knew nothing about the pandemic, the health, what we were supposed to do,
Right.
any of that. But as a leader, I did accept the opportunity to sit on this core committee as we brought people back in. But what I did, my daughter, who lives in New Orleans, is a public health professional.
Mm.
She graduated, she all kinds of degrees and certifications in public health. So at that time, I brought her in as well. We have the same last name. I said, because I can't sit on this committee and sit at the table and bring nothing.
Right.
So I brought her in so that we could work together. So we worked together on that. So as a result, I was able to see where things were going, how they were going. But when it came to leadership and leadership in ministries and things like that, I saw there was a gap and no confidence in going back with leadership roles. I call them leaders and emerging leaders. So that's where I spend a lot of time in working with higher education resource ministry at my church.
Okay.
I renamed it to make sense, not just to our church, but to the community and what we're doing.
Sure.
Did I answer
That's
the question? I'm just talking.
You did. That's pretty awesome. I just wonder, just like, what type of things you're doing now. So you work, I know you do a lot of work there at Mount Zion.
Yeah.
And it is such a beautiful church too, by the way. I was there for Mr. Dudley's funeral. It was the first time I'd ever been inside the church. I've been
Okay.
inside it before. That's the
Yes.
first time
Yes.
I'd ever been inside the sanctuary or inside the church. It's a beautiful church. Tony just talked so highly of it, and Pastor Pierce and all that. So
Bishop,
Bishop Pierce. Thank
he
you.
would kill me, but he is Bishop here.
That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
And so your work in ministry continues. Now, do you also work with other leaders outside of Mount Zion? Do you kind of reach out to other churches as well?
Absolutely. Other churches and other nonprofits, other organizations. I do leadership training with a community college here, where it's our business and industry department, where the community college brings in corporations to train their employees. So I am
Sure.
the adjunct instructor for about 8 leadership classes. I do classes for myself. That's my business, Gothard Impact Leadership Training, LLC. And so I have different contracts that I go in different companies and do training. My last one, I worked with a fabulous young lady in our area. And she has a business called Give It to the People. She did just wonderful events. So I did a leadership training on cultural competence in leadership.
Okay.
So that has, and most things just spring to other things. So,
Right.
and that comes from my research. So my research while I was doing my doctorate, I learned how to pull in a lot of that information. And then the degree I got at Western was training and putting it all together. And then that passion is the impact that I give.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What I feel is your passion for what you're doing. You've always been passionate about what you're doing. Way back in '86 when we first met you at Western to now, and so just awfully proud just to know you and see the wonderful things that you do. And my wife thinks so highly of you, and so does Michelle, obviously. And
Thank you.
So I think you guys even back in the day did you have a little Mary Kay connection going on too?
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
That's all.
I heard some wonderful things about her as far as being a director. I never really achieved that status. I just liked the product. So I do a lot of education, but she was the leader.
Yeah. So she just enjoys being a customer now too. So
okay, good.
All good. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that? How would they connect with you if they're looking for some leadership things at their particular church or nonprofit? How do they go about doing that?
Okay, and just real quickly with the nonprofit, I train boards because I'm on several boards. So my leadership goes to the executive director of the nonprofit. I can train them individually, which I have done.
Okay.
And then that can extend to training their board on different areas of how to build their capacity for a board. I was actually on the board of the YWCA in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
And then several boards here. So
you
just
get all into board governance and all those things that is so important. Okay.
Oh, yes, and which is very important. And a lot of times people have the opportunity to be on a board, but have no idea, like me when I was in Kalamazoo, what that encompasses. So I do trainings on that as well. But how to get in contact with me, you can reach me by email, and it's Shelia at GothardImpact.com. And you can also check out my you can also check out my website to get more information and how to reach me. I have some blogs on there. Once I finish researching on a particular topic, I turn it into a blog. It's on my website. You can read all this information if you're not at one of my trainings.
Now, one quick thing that we only just briefly touched on, the book. Where can they get the book? The
book is on Amazon, and you search Dr. Shelia Gothard. I'll show you what it looks like. Masterly. I'm thinking about I'm not going to tell you what I'm thinking about, but it's Principles for Significant and Practical Impact in Ministry.
Awesome.
So this book works as for the emerging leader. It also works for succession planning. There's scriptures in each to tell you why you would do each thing, and then you keep it. It's a workbook, and the design is like a tablet coming from Rebecca 2:2, so that you write your vision and you make it plain.
There you go.
So I can put that information out there. So that's on my website as well.
Well, listen, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm glad that we finally did this. We've been talking about it for a while.
Yes.
We finally were able to have the reunion -1 today. So, but we see Michelle's there. Hopefully you feel better. And so thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to, we're not that far away. So next time you're in Charlotte, let us know. And God's peace be with you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being with us tonight. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. The Real Money Coach Show. And